Everybody saw the headline and thought the same thing. Blake Lively is finished. Justin Baldoni won. End of story. But that is not actually what happened. And that is exactly why this story is getting even messier. A federal judge did throw out 10 of Blake Lively's 13 claims in the lawsuit tied to It Ends With Us, including her sexual harassment claims. That part is real. But the part people keep skipping is that the case did not disappear. The retaliation fight is still alive, the breach of contract issue is still alive, and this whole thing is still headed toward a May 18th trial in New York. So now, the question is not just who got the better headline this week. The real question is who is walking into trial with more damage already attached to their name. What makes this so wild is how fast the internet turned one court ruling into a full career obituary. The second those dismissed claims hit the news, people started talking like Blake Lively had been completely exposed and Justin Baldoni had been fully vindicated. But the court ruling is narrower than that, and that difference matters. The judge did not say the entire saga was fake. He said specific legal claims could not move forward under the laws Blake used, partly because she was treated as an independent contractor rather than an employee. That may sound technical, but in celebrity scandals, technical details do not trend. Headlines do. Before we go deeper, comment below whose public image you think is taking the bigger hit right now. And if you like these fast legal drama breakdowns, make sure you subscribe because this trial could get even uglier from here. So why did so many of her claims get tossed? According to current reporting, the judge looked at two major things. First, Blake Lively was considered an independent contractor, not a traditional employee, which blocked her from pursuing the federal harassment claim the way she wanted. Second, the court also looked at where the alleged conduct happened and how the scenes were being filmed. In the ruling, Judge Lewis Lyman said some of the behavior Blake described took place in the context of acting and scene work, and that creative people need some room to operate within an agreed script without immediately facing liability for harassment. That language gave Justin Baldoni's side a huge talking point because it let them frame this as a major courtroom validation, even though the ruling did not wipe away the whole case. And that is where the story takes a turn that a lot of viewers are missing. Even with the harassment claims dismissed, the judge still left room for some of those same allegations to show up in front of a jury as part of the retaliation case. In plain English, Blake Lively may not get to argue that those claims stand on their own under that specific law, but she can still point to the on-set conduct and say it helps explain why she later felt targeted, why she says she was punished, and why her side claims there was an effort to damage her reputation. Reuters reported that the judge said jurors could consider whether the defendants impermissibly and materially altered her career prospects through what she described as a smear campaign. That is a huge reason this is not a clean win for anybody. Justin Baldoni's side did exactly what you would expect after a ruling like this. They went straight into victory mode. His legal team said, what is left is a significantly narrowed case, and made it clear they are eager to present their defense at trial. They have also kept insisting that neither Justin Baldoni nor the individual defendants engaged in the harassment Blake alleged. From a public relations point of view, that is smart. They know most people do not read long legal rulings. They see the phrase, claims dismissed, and that alone can shape the whole narrative. So, Baldoni's camp is pushing the idea that this week confirmed what they believed from the start. Whether a jury ends up seeing it that way is a different story, but for now, his side absolutely got a headline they can work with. Blake Lively's side, though, is pushing back just as hard. Her attorneys have said the dismissal was about legal issues, not some sweeping endorsement of the defendant's conduct. They also said the sexual harassment allegations remain the beating heart of her case, even if those claims are not moving forward in the same legal form she originally filed. Another statement from her legal team said Blake looks forward to testifying at trial and continuing to shine a light on what they describe as online retaliation after she raised concerns about safety on set. That is a very deliberate message. Her camp is basically telling the public, do not confuse a legal narrowing with total exoneration. They want people focused on the retaliation claim because that is now the battlefield that matters most. And that shift matters because this case has never been only about what happened during filming. It has also been about what happened after. Blake first filed her complaint in December 2024, and the dispute exploded into one of the messiest celebrity legal fights in recent memory. Justin Baldoni later filed counterclaims against Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and others, but those counterclaims were dismissed in June 2025. A court-mandated settlement conference in February 2026 did not resolve anything, which is why both sides are still marching toward trial. So when people say this latest ruling proves one side was totally right, that skips over the fact that both camps have already taken hits in court at different stages. This is not a neat hero versus villain story. It is a scorched earth fight that keeps mutating. What makes Blake's position especially dangerous is that the legal fight landed on top of a public image problem she already had. Back during the It Ends With Us press tour in 2024, Blake faced visible online backlash over how she was promoting the film. Variety reported that the press tour was widely criticized online, and People also covered the backlash around the campaign. That matters because now the surviving retaliation claim is tied to a bigger question the public is already arguing over. Was Blake's reputation hurt because the internet organically turned on her, or was there a coordinated effort behind the scenes that made that backlash worse? That is a much more explosive issue than a simple celebrity feud, because one version makes this a public relations disaster and the other makes it a retaliation story with real consequences. And honestly, this is where the title starts to make emotional sense, even if the exact wording has to stay careful. Has the lawsuit ruined Blake Lively's career? That is too strong to say as a fact right now, but has it damaged her image in a way that could haunt her for a long time? Absolutely, that is a fair question. Because in Hollywood, even when a case is still alive, a brutal headline cycle can do damage long before a verdict ever arrives. Every new court update becomes a popularity contest. Every legal technicality becomes a trending opinion. Every old interview, awkward press clip, and social media post gets dragged back into the spotlight. So even if Blake believes trial will help her tell her side more fully, she is walking into that courtroom with months of public cynicism already surrounding her. But there is risk for Justin Baldoni too, and that part should not be ignored. Yes, this ruling gave him a public boost. Yes, his side can say the harassment and defamation claims were dismissed. But the retaliation claim surviving means the spotlight is still very much on what happened after Blake raised concerns. Reuters reported that the judge said certain conduct at least arguably crossed the line, and that jurors can consider whether her career prospects were materially affected. That keeps the reputational danger alive for Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios, because the trial is now set up to focus less on one label and more on behavior, response, and aftermath. If damaging internal messages, ugly strategy discussions, or embarrassing testimony comes out in court, the current victory lap could start looking very premature. Another reason this story keeps people hooked is that both sides seem completely convinced they can still win. Blake's team says the core of the case remains intact. Justin's team says the case has been dramatically weakened. Nobody is backing off, nobody is trying to sound humble. And that tells you something important. Both camps must believe the trial phase gives them something the headlines still do not. Maybe it is testimony. Maybe it is documents. Maybe it is evidence they think will land harder in a courtroom than it did online. But either way, the confidence on both sides makes this feel less like a wrap-up and more like the calm before another wave. When celebrity legal fights get to this point, the most damaging material often shows up after people think the story is already played out. There is also the Hollywood layer hanging over all of this. This is not some isolated legal filing involving people the public barely knows. These are major names, a high-profile film, and a case that has already pulled in extra attention because Blake Lively said people like Taylor Swift, Gigi Hadid, and Hugh Jackman might have information supporting aspects of her claims. That does not mean this turns into a celebrity parade at trial, but it shows just how wide the orbit of this mess has become. And because It Ends With Us made more than $351 million worldwide, this whole fight is tied to a very visible commercial success, not a forgotten flop. That gives the scandal more staying power because the movie itself is still part of the public memory. So where does that leave Blake Lively right now? in the worst possible place for a celebrity who thrives on image, not fully cleared, not fully defeated, just stuck in that ugly middle where every side can cherry-pick a headline and every viewer can project their own bias onto the story. Her critics are saying this ruling proves she overreached. Her supporters are saying the retaliation case is the real heart of the scandal and that the most important part is still coming. Both interpretations are alive at the same time, which is exactly why this story is not dying down. If Blake takes the stand in May, the trial could either become the moment she regains control of the narrative or the moment the damage hardens into something much more lasting. Right now, both outcomes are still on the table. That is why the real twist here is not that Blake Lively is done, it is that the case got smaller on paper while the fallout around it may be getting bigger in public. 10 claims were dismissed, yes, but the retaliation fight remains. The trial is scheduled for May 18th, and both sides are still acting like they have a final blow left to deliver. So the next phase is where this stops being just a headline war and turns into a much riskier test of who the jury believes, who the public believes, and who still has something left to lose. Drop your take in the comments. Did this ruling truly change the whole case? Or did it just make the surviving claims even more important? And if you want more updates on celebrity legal drama and the stories behind the headlines, subscribe and stay close because this one is nowhere near over.